Right, morning fellas, welcome back to another Villa on Tour video. Today we're doing something slightly different. Again, I'm joined by Simon. Say hello.
Hello everybody.
Banging. Right, we did a video previously ranking home shirts. That went down quite well, so if you haven't already checked out that video, go and check out all the other previous videos as well. But today we are ranking our top 15 Aston Villa strikers in the Premier League era. Now, I'm only 19, so I haven't seen a lot of them. Simon, you've seen slightly more than me, but we have got a special guest coming on later. Dan Bardell will be joining us to talk about some of the start of the Premier League era players like Saunders, etc. So we'll get onto that. But top 15, let's get on to it. Obviously, we've kind of joined our top 15s. We have done a little bit of preparation for this, but if you don't agree, absolutely fine. Leave your top 5, top 10s in the comments. Do leave a like if you do go on to enjoy the video. But without further ado, 15th place is Jordan Ayew. Bit of a controversial one, this, because he was at Villa in a time that we were pretty crap.
Yeah, he was our only bright spark, wasn't he, of that horrendous 2015-2016 relegation year. Yeah, he had a good season, didn't he? I mean, in a really poor side. How many goals did he get?
He got 9 goals in 51 games, but obviously that was the start of the Championship season because he left us in January, didn't he? So yeah, season and a half, which isn't great, but like you said, he was in a dreadful side, and he was the only bright spark.
Yeah, bright spark of a dreadful side, and then when we got relegated, it was sort of, you could just tell he didn't really want to be there, so then we shipped him off to Swansea.
It's fair enough. He wants to play in the Premier League, and you can see now at Palace, he's a good player. He's a very good player.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Number 14, we have Benito Carbone. He was only here for 1 season, actually, 99 to 2000. 4 goals in 24 games. So I looked at this, because I didn't know much about him, I'm going to be honest. And sorry, he only scored 4 goals. So, Simon, enlighten me to why he's in 14th place.
He was such a good player, though, Benito Carbone. The thing was, he wasn't prolific. He wasn't actually what you'd call like a proper centre forward. I guess he's what you'd like call today like a false 9 or like an attacking midfielder sort of thing. We signed him quite late on in the 99-2000 season, the season we got to the FA Cup final. Signed him on a free from Sheffield Wednesday, and three of those goals came in. He scored a hat-trick in the FA Cup 5th round against Leeds. Absolutely brilliant, but he was such a good player, and at that time he brought that little bit of flair and a little bit of sort of swagger that the Villa team needed. And I remember going into the following season, he was available on a free transfer, obviously because his contract expired, and Villa lost out on him. He went to Bradford because they offered him more money, which was a bit gutting at the time. But his goal scoring record isn't what you look at with Carbone. He's just his overall play and his overall sort of swagger. Just
that bit of class.
Yeah, he was brilliant. I remember him and Paul Merson together was just like on another planet. Yeah. Totally on another planet. Yeah, I love Carbone. I remember that because it was when I first started following Villa, and I remember being absolutely gutted when we didn't manage to sign him permanently. But then his career went a little bit downhill. Then he didn't really do much at Bradford and his other teams. But yeah, class player. Right,
on to the next player. In 13th place, we have Julian Joachim. He was here for 5 years between 96 and 2001. Decent record, 141 games, and he scored 39 goals. Again, you'll have to enlighten me a little bit, Simon, because I don't know too much about him. But I've heard a lot of good things.
See, I was really surprised by his stats, actually, because I thought he'd done okay, but I didn't realise he scored that many goals, because he was actually always like a bit of a perennial sort of second choice striker, because at the time we had like, during his time at Villa, we had people like Collymore, Dwight York, Dublin, and so he was always a bit like a second choice striker. I remember him scoring goals, but I didn't realise he scored as many as 39, but one thing I do remember about him though, he had absolutely like blistering pace, and he had a decent finish on him as well. That's probably why he scored so many goals. But yeah, a good player, but never really hit the heights that maybe other players did, but that's because he probably didn't get the game time. But no, good player.
Yeah, you look at that and think someone that didn't get all that much game time, but he still managed to get 1 in every sort of 3 or 4 games. It's not bad. You've got to give him credit there.
Yeah, definitely. Like now, like if you had a striker like that now, you'd be talking about his as a first choice striker. You wouldn't. Not many teams have a second choice striker these days who scores 1 in 3, 1 in 4 sort of thing. So he did quite well for Villa. Yeah.
Next up in 12th place, Darius Vassell. Decent record, but he was here between 98 and 2005, so 7 years. He was here for a while. 35 goals in 162 games, so it's not as good a record as Joachim, but still not that bad.
Yeah, he was another good player. He came through Villa's academy, Vassell. once again, player with absolute blistering pace. That was his main attribute, really. But his record was decent. I mean, I remember the season where he was most potent was when he was alongside Angel in that 03-04 season under David O'Leary. That's around the time when he got his England breakthrough as well. I remember he got called up to Sven-Göran Eriksson's England squad, and he scored that overhead kick on his debut against Holland. And then he went to the World Cup after that, and obviously played in I think he played Euro 2004 as well. I think he missed the key penalty against Portugal in Euro 2004 for England, actually. Yeah, I know. Surprise, Villa player. But no, he was a good player. The thing was, I didn't get with Darius Vassell is how we let him go. Though he left to go to Man City, and we only got something like 1.5 million, 2 million for him at the time, which was a bit of a strange one because we never really replaced him, and he did alright for Man City, to be fair. This was in the time before Man City had all the money, but yeah, he was a good player. I like Vassell.
In 11th place, it's actually someone that I say lucky enough to watch. Darren Bent. Signed in 2011 in the January transfer window, left us in 2015. Decent record, 61 games, 21 goals. Obviously, a few of those years are in a pretty poor side. He was loaned out as well, wasn't he? I know he went to Derby and amongst
as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, amongst other sort of lower clubs, really. So it was our record signing as well. So there was a lot of expectation. He was sort of that player that we needed, a 25 goal a season sort of player. He scored on his debut, didn't he, against Man City? That's fairly iconic. But no, he's a class player back in the day at Sunderland and Tottenham as well. Decent player.
The problem was with Ben's career at Villa was that we sold his supply line. When Julian left, we sold Ashley Young and Stuart Downing, and at the time it was Stuart Downing, Young and Darren Bent. It was like that deadly sort of trio, and he was banging them in. And then, to be fair, under McLeish, he wasn't bad. I think he scored like 11 or 12 goals that season under McLeish, and then he broke his ankle, and then that really set him back. And then when Lambert took over, Lambert didn't really fancy him, and that was his Villa career sort of over. But big money, but he was exactly what we needed at the time to keep us up, and that's what it did.
I was going to say, I don't think we really saw, as soon as Lambert came in, we didn't see anything of him, and I was surprised to see that he left us so late in 2015 because we hadn't seen anything of him in the previous 2 or 3 years.
He preferred Benteke, didn't he?
Yeah,
and that was it. He didn't think that you could play the two strikers in the same team, which is fair enough. And I think Lambert was proved right in the end, but it doesn't mean that Darren Bent wasn't a good player for us. I think he was good, especially under Julian anyway.
Absolutely. Right then, into the top 10. Tammy Abraham. It's fairly strange this, because lone player, obviously we're in the Championship, so the opposition wasn't as hard as a lot of people on this list. You know, they were playing in the Premier League, but fair play to Tammy Abraham, absolute hero. His record is absolutely incredible. 37 games last season, 25 goals. It's so impressive. He's done wonderful things this season at Chelsea. I know injuries haven't been too kind to him, but at Villa he was just absolutely incredible. Like, if you give him a chance, he'll put it away. The Nottingham Forest at home game sticks out for me, where he scored 4. He was just incredible, and in the summer, this summer, going into the Premier League, it would have been incredible if we could actually get him, but it just wasn't meant to be. But what a player. Yeah,
absolute top player, wasn't he? I think that signing was key for Villa, wasn't it? I think Bruce made that signing before he left, but it was key, wasn't it? I think it was just his movement, Abraham, to be honest, without anything. It was just, he found those pockets of space, and his finishing was really good. And I say that, he scored all them goals, and yet, I do remember on occasions, he used to fluff, some easy chances. I remember West Brom.
Albion away.
Yeah. And Villa would have been out of sight if we'd have scored that. But so for missing those, I mean, really, if you weren't missing them chances, you'd have scored like over 30 goals for Villa, which is absolutely crazy. The thing was, he was far too good for the Championship, wasn't he? He was a Premier League striker, and the unfortunate thing for Villa is that Lampard took over Chelsea at the time when they couldn't make any signings, because I think if that hadn't have happened, then I think he'd have been nailed on to come back to Villa, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was a rumoured fee of 25 million or something like that, but I think his value now is maybe even double that, possibly.
Yeah, you'd be talking like 50, 60 million comfortably now. In England international striker, comfortably. Yeah,
he's sort of like a unique player as well, because he's not exactly, obviously he's huge. He's what, 6'3", 6'4", but he's not big. He's not big. He's like slim and slick, but his movement's very good, like you said. And just a great player.
And he's good with a ball at his feet. I think that's the key thing. For a big man, that's quite rare. Usually big blokes aren't that great on the floor with the football, but Abraham, quality player.
Right then, in 9th place, I do have a special guest. Dan Bardell is back on the Villa YouTube scene. Dan, how are you, mate?
Got to keep myself relevant, mate. Jumped at the opportunity of coming on your channel.
Feels a bit weird, it feels a bit weird, but you're on because you do have experience with the, I don't want to say older, but like the early Premier League years. You've seen them, you can help us out a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
I'm basically on because I'm old, is what you say.
Yeah, no, not like that, but just a bit of expertise, Okay. So in 9th place in our list of 15, SAVO Milosevic. Talk to me about him.
I actually think he was really underrated and really underappreciated. I think that if it wasn't for him, I don't think in those first few seasons Dwight Yorke would have scored as many goals as he did. He did used to miss a few chances, but he actually got quite a lot of assists as well. And he was very one-footed, but he was very clever, a very clever footballer, and he scored a couple of absolute screamers as well, none more so than in the 1996 cup final. I just think he was a lot better than people thought he was, and then he went elsewhere after Villa, and he absolutely ripped it up in the La Liga and ended up getting some really big transfer moves as well. So I just think he was a really good player and someone that's underappreciated by fans.
Yeah, I mean, his record's okay, 90 games, 25 goals. Like you said, scored in the cup final, won something, so that obviously, you know, helps him out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he pretty much deserves that 9th place spot.
It was more about the partnership, like him and Yorke, probably the best partnership I think I've seen since I've had a season ticket. So I'm 34 and I've been going since I was 7, and that was pretty much the second strike partnership that I saw. But I think they were the best. I think they just linked up really well, and he was a really clever player. And without him, as I say, I don't think Dwight Yorke kicks on in those 2 seasons that he did with him.
In 8th place, we have the big man, another big man, John CAREW. He's bigger than me and you. He was here between 2007 and 2011, 113 games, 37 goals. He was class. Villa did the whole 90 minutes of the 5-1 game yesterday, which I sat down and watched, and he was just absolutely incredible. Again, big man, just bullied defenders. He was just absolutely class. I think you were saying before we came on, he was just that inconsistency that let him down.
Yeah, it was. Like, you know what? He was a phenomenal player, and I think on his day he could rip any team apart. Problem was with John CAREW was whether he could be bothered or not. And I think if you look back at his career at Villa, he used to absolutely like batter teams like people like Bolton and like the Blues, for instance, and teams like that. But it was against the big sides when he sort of was quiet in the games, which you sort of expect. But he was sometimes better than what he showed at Villa. But I've got to say, he was an absolute cult hero, and I think he scored like 50 something goals for Villa, didn't he?
Yeah.
And yeah, brilliant. I mean, so I think we got him on basically it was a free transfer. It was a swap for Milan Barros, who flat to deceive at Villa, and that was a masterstroke of a signing by Martinelli. That was.
And the fact that the players that he was sort of playing with, the young that could supply him like that again, I'm talking about that 5-1 where he whipped in the free kick straight into his head, easy as that. Downing, Milner around him, it's just absolutely class. It just clicked so well with all these good players, so that was such a good time for Villa. It was just a shame because he went to West Ham after Villa, didn't he? And it sort of just tailed off. But he's a good player.
It sort of went downhill for him when O'Neill left. Julian took over, and him and Julian had previous when they were at Lyon together as well. And so it was never going to end well. Julian was always going to get rid of him. But to be fair, I think he had sort of come to the end anyway at that point. But yeah, what a player, what a man, Big John.
I mean, we still sing his song now, so that says it all, really.
We love the bloke, absolutely love the bloke, and he loves us, and that's what makes it so good.
Yeah. Right, in 7th spot, the legend DALIAN Atkinson. His record, 25 goals in 85 games, so it's not too bad. Obviously won the first League Cup in the 90s and 94 with us. Between 91 and 95, he was at top. Was he any good? Talk to me about Atkinson.
Yeah, I mean, he scored in the first ever game I went to, so fond memories of DALIAN Atkinson, and obviously what's gone on to happen to him is absolutely tragic. I'm really surprised that he only scored 25 goals. Actually, I would have said that he'd scored a lot more than that, because it always felt like either one of him or Dean Saunders were scoring for a few years. He obviously played a massive part in the 94 Cup final, opening the scoring with a really, really clever finish, good finish that obviously set us on our way. He was a bit of a maverick. It was a little bit, I think he did better for Villa than Collymore, but he was a little bit like Collymore in the sense that if he really, really fancied it, he'd turn up and he'd rip it up. I mean, he scored one of the most iconic goals I think Villa have ever scored with the old umbrella celebration, the old noddy holder with the umbrella. But he was a bit of a maverick. If he fancied it, he was literally capable of anything. He didn't really go on and do anything after Villa, which will be a disappointment to him. But when Ron Atkinson was manager, DALIAN Atkinson was a massive part of how Villa played. He was pacey, he was powerful, he was strong, and he could pop up with a goal as well. Scored a really important goal in the semi-final against Tranmere. I actually used to think he was the one who scored the important goal in the first leg as well, which made the deficit 3-1. So not many memories of him just because I was so young, but I just remember it being exciting when he got the ball. Obviously, we were standing in the Heart End in those days, so I will have been standing on a milk crate, which will sound absolutely mad to
that's
your
class.
audience. Yeah, but I just remember like people were on the edge of the milk crates when Dalian Atkinson got the ball.
No, that's absolutely class. I love the sound of that. And like you said, that goal against Wimbledon with the umbrella, that's just absolutely iconic. Like, you see that goal everywhere. It's just absolutely class. And we still sing his name now, so I think he deserves to be 7th place, 100%.
I think that goal is probably Villa's best goal of the era you're talking about, probably. If you look at it, like I say, on his day, he obviously fancied it that day and just scores an unbelievable goal. I probably, other than Peter With's, it's probably one of the most famous Villa goals.
Yeah. Right then, in 6th place, the man, the myth, the legend, Juan Pablo Angel. Great player. He was here between 2001 2007, so 6 years. Decent record, 175 games, 44 goals. Could have been a little bit better, but he was just a cult hero, wasn't he?
Yeah, club record at the time this was. I remember at the time everyone was criticising Doug Ellis at the time for not spending the money, and then he dished out $9.5 million for Juan Pablo Angel, which at the time was a lot of money. Really struggled at the start, actually. He really struggled to settle in, and then all of a sudden he really found his feet. Scored that goal against Coventry, which ended up relegating Coventry that season. And he was brilliant after that. He had that one season when he scored 23 goals in all competitions, I think it was, under David O'Leary. He had a good record at Villa. Once again, you could possibly say he could have done a little bit better, possibly, but he was one of those players that you just remember, once again, sort of fell in love with the club. Villa fans sort of fell in love with him. He was a top striker, yeah.
Was it the end of last season at half time during one of the games? He came out with, was it Martin Larsson? And the sort of reception he got was incredible.
Yeah, it was against Blackburn, wasn't it? Yeah, he came out with Louis Larsson, and I think that was like the first real time he's been back to Villa Park, because he left for New York Red Bulls, and he was in like the middle of the season when he left, so he never really got a chance to say goodbye to the Villa fans either, so that was quite a nice touch last season.
Yeah, it was class. Right then, into the top 5. This is where it gets controversial, so you probably won't agree with us, but that's fine. Again, leave your comments for your top 5, and we shall see. But we have got Gabriel Agbonlahor in 5th place. I looked at his record and I thought, that's not great. 341 games, 75 goals. Joined us in 2005, obviously left in 2018, the middle season in the Championship. But in his prime, he was just absolutely unstoppable. Obviously, his pace was the major factor of him tearing teams apart. I just think people's memories of him aren't great because of what happened in the last sort of, 4, 5, 6 years. It's not great, but in his prime, incredible player, unstoppable.
Yeah, I think with Gabby, people look at the end of his time at Villa and sort of judge him on that. But for me, you have to forget about that. Things happen behind closed doors, and we're not that privy to it. And you know, we always believe everything we read in the media, and sometimes it's not great to do that. But he was brilliant. He was brilliant for Villa. I mean, a local lad coming through the academy. It's sort of like Grealish, like now, sort of thing. And he was just brilliant. Like when he burst onto the scene, it was his raw pace, wasn't it, that absolutely did it. And in those early seasons, he used to just seem to have like an extra yard of pace against anybody. And his finishing wasn't bad either. He could have been better, but it wasn't bad. I remember that hat-trick, the perfect hat-trick he scored against Man City.
Yeah.
That day, his pace just ripped Man City apart. The opening day of the season, I think that was. And he scored a perfect hat-trick, left foot, right foot, head. And yeah, he was a good player for Villa, a really, really good player, and I think, I'd have him up there. I think some people would argue that players lower down the list that we've been talking about should be higher than Gabby, but for me, he's got to be up there.
Yeah, I think he's one of them players where if you give him a lot of time to think about it, he'll probably muck it up. But if you fire in a ball to him in its first time, he will finish it. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, we've got to talk about the goals against the Blues. How many is it? Oh, God knows, 5, 6, 7, who knows? But every single time, home, away, even when he was outcasted like in the 16-17 season when he hardly played, he comes in for, who was it? Was it Kodja? Yeah, Kodja was suspended and he just scores against them. It's like written in the stars every time, so that's a major factor as well. Why he's in 5th place, deserves it. 4th place, the big man, homes under the hammer, legend, DION, Dublin. He was here for 6 years between 98 and 2004. Decent record, nearly 50 goals, just the 48 in 155 games. He was a quality player, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, loved DION Dublin. So this is around the time I really started following Villa, and he just epitomises what I remember Villa to be around that time. We had a hard time replacing Dwight York after he left, and at the time, I think John Gregory spent the money in bringing in Merson and Dublin together. Dublin was brilliant. His first 3 games, I remember watching the season review that season, and his first 3 games, he scored 7 goals in 3 games. And Villa were top of the league. Villa were top of the league at the time, and yeah, it fell away a little bit after that. But he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. He had that famously broke his neck as well against Sheffield Wednesday. And then he came back and scored the winning penalty in the FA Cup semi-final, which took us to the final. But he was just brilliant. He even had a loan spell away from Villa when he was there. He went to Millwall for a little bit as well, and even came back and finished Villa's top scorer the following season, which says it all about the man, really. But top bloke, and also had a little spell at centre half with Villa as well under David O'Leary when we were short of centre halves. But yeah, top player.
He's just a nice guy as well. You see him, he does lots of punditries on 5 Live, obviously does Homes Under the Hammer, yeah. But he's just a genuinely nice guy.
Yeah, and he's another one who talks about Villa in like a really positive fashion, and he loved his time at Villa, and like you can still tell now he's constantly behind the Villa all the time now. Like, yeah, top bloke.
What a guy. Into the top 3 then, 3rd place, Dean Saunders. Here between 92 and 95, 112 games, 37 goals. The one that sticks out for me was it the lob? Was it against Ipswich from basically the halfway line?
That was my first game.
Was it? Wow.
That was the game, yeah. Yeah, that was my first game. So
that's class.
Saunders scored, so I think that was the first goal I ever saw. I can't remember which goal came first in that game, but that was in the first 2 goals that I ever saw.
Wow.
At Villa Park. Again, I'm saying, when you're a kid, I think it feels like these players are scoring every week. So when you've read his goal scoring record out, to me it sounds quite low to what I would have thought it was and how I remember things as a young lad. But he was the first number 9 I saw, and he's like an iconic number 9, what I call a proper number 9, because he was just an out and out goal scorer. Really quite a cheeky player. Used to work hard, and yeah, it just felt like he scored every week. He scored 2 goals in the 94 Cup final. Obviously, I remember being quite sad.
Yeah, I don't think his record was bad. It's pretty much won every 3 games, so it's not awful. Like you said, won a trophy as well, so that's always going to boost them up the list, and deserving of 3rd place.
Yeah, I think it feels like he was there longer. To me, I don't know whether football goes slower when you're a kid. To be fair, the last 10 years has gone pretty slow as a Villa fan, hasn't it? But yeah, again, just one of the first players I really remember, and I remember as a kid, loads of people would have just had 9 Dina on the back of their shirt. So he was just a really popular player and a great goal scorer for Villa.
Right then, 2 players remain, and you can probably guess who they are. But 2nd place, the king, the Belgian beast, Christian Benteke. I think I've been following Villa about 10, 11 years now, and he just is the best player I've seen. I think Grealish has potential to get there, but the fact he was just so unstoppable on his day, which was most weeks, let's be honest, under Villa, he was just incredible. Again, he was a big man, but he wasn't bad with the ball at his feet. If you put the ball on his head, he will score. He was just an absolute joy to watch. It was just a shame that there wasn't a better team around him, because if you put Benteke, like prime 2013-14 Benteke, in the Villa side from 2009, you put Ashley Young around him, he was incredible. He could have just been that step up. He was just absolutely incredible. He got that £32 million move to Liverpool, and I don't really think they understood how to use him. I think they saw him as like a Rudy Gestede sort of player, and he was just a massive lump that you put up front, but I think he was more than that. They kind of underestimated him, and he's gone to Palace, and it is a shame for him, because we saw the class that he had. So it's a massive shame, but he deserves the 2nd place slot on here. He's just an absolute hero, and his record was very, very good as well. Nearly a goal every other game. 42 goals, 89 games. What a man.
Oh, he was brilliant. As you just said, he's also the best player I've seen playing for Villa. Like, he was everything you would ever want from a striker. He had a good touch at his feet. He was quick. He was an absolute beast in the air. He was a good finisher as well. He rarely scuffed a chance. And to be scoring like that many goals, 19, 20 goals around the likes of what we had at the time, like under Paul Lambert, like the Alamadis of this world, and Tonevs and stuff like that. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, that is pretty incredible. As you just said, if you had him when we were under Martin Hill with Stuart Down and Ashley Young Milner, I genuinely think Villa would have won something back then. We probably would have definitely got top 4 because that was the problem. Back under O'Neill, we didn't score enough goals really. We couldn't break teams down enough, and we had a player like him at the time. You got to look at that though and think we only paid 6 million for Benteke. I mean, Paul Lambert paid 6 million for him, and I give credit to Paul Lambert because that was an incredible sign. Since a few years later, he went for 32.5 million, and as you said, it just didn't work out for him, did it? Liverpool and even Palace haven't really used him right, and his confidence has just dipped, hasn't it? But it's a shame really, because if he'd have stayed at Villa and if we'd had a better team, he would have gone on to be an absolute legend at Villa. But yeah, he is a modern day legend. But what I mean is, he if he'd have stayed at Villa for like that sort of long period, he could have easily got like 80, 90, 100 goals for Villa easily. If he'd have stayed there,
he could have broken Gabby's Premier League goal scoring record easily.
Definitely.
Easily.
But what a player! Absolute brilliant player.
Yeah, like I said, he's the best player I've ever seen at Villa, and that probably won't change for a long time, judging on what we're seeing at the moment. But absolute joy to watch. Credit Christian Benteke, and that's why he's got the second place spot. Right then, me and Simon had already talked about Benteke, but Dan, you've got to talk about him. Absolute legend. He's the best player I've ever seen at Villa. Just talk to me about him.
Kept us up pretty much single-handedly. 3 years in a row, didn't he? He was just unplayable at times. I think because he's not done great since he's left Villa, I think people actually forget how good that he was. I mean, there was no more satisfying sight as a Villa fan than just seeing a cross come in and watching Benteke get on the end of it, score a powerful header. He was so good in the air. He's actually like quite a skillful player as well. I thought you don't see so much of that from him nowadays when he's playing. I don't know whether he's lost a yard of pace, but he always felt quite skillful, like he could go past someone. When he was at Villa Park, he was just our main man, and someone I really wanted back in January. I just think Villa Park's his home, and I think if he came back, he'd have really hit the ground running again and got some goals. For us, it's a shame how things have been for him since he left, but he simply made the wrong move. When he left Villa, that move was a bad move for him, but his goal-scoring record, I'm presuming you've already spoke about it, it's crazy, his goal-scoring record in what was a really poor side.
Yeah, basically here he's won every other game, and like you said, in a side that was so bad, he's just an absolute legend. And like you said, it's not ideal what's happened to him since. We were saying Liverpool didn't really know how to use him properly. They thought he was like a big lump up front, but like you said, with the ball at his feet, he's more than that. I think, you know, the 3-3 at home to QPR, a couple of the goals that day, I know he scored a free kick as well, but I think it was the first one, where like dribbled past everyone and just slotted it in. Absolutely class.
Yeah, lovely goal. Yeah, he was an unbelievable player. Benteke, and I'd have him down in the top 2 or 3 that I've seen play for Villa up front in my time, and I've obviously seen a lot more than you. I just think he was that good.
Absolutely. So that brings us on to number 1, Dwight Yorke. His record, 73 goals in 232. So there's better records on this list. He was here for ages, those 9 years. Just absolute legend, basically.
Yeah, I think it's because he wasn't a regular for a long time. So in my first few seasons, a lot of the time when he wasn't even on the bench. But as I mentioned earlier, when Saunders and Atkinson went, Yorke suddenly, Brian Little just made him the main man and played him up front, because he used to play on the wing quite a lot for Villa as well, because he had a bit of pace, but he was a really intelligent footballer as well. There was times when he'd drop in and play number 10 towards the latter stages of Brian Little's time as manager at Villa as well. But for 1 or 2, actually it was 3 seasons, he was just unbelievable. He just finished everything. And that 95-96 season when we won the Coca-Cola Cup as it was then, he literally was scoring every single week. He had great partnership with Milosevic. As I said, I think he was very well liked in the dressing room, and you don't really go on and do what he did in the game afterwards with Man U if you're not a fantastic striker. Yeah, again, I think it's forgotten a little bit how good he was. We had who were we speaking to? I think speaking to Tails the other day on my podcast, and he said because he didn't really play in any World Cups, and he didn't play for a big country, it kind of gets overlooked how good he was, because Trinidad and Tobago obviously are never going to go and do anything in a World Cup. I think they've only been in 1 World Cup. So because he never really got the chance to do it on the international stage, he never gets ranked as one of those top Premier League players, top strikers. But winning the treble with Man U and playing up front for them, and the partnership he had with Cole, I think tells you everything. It's sad that he went on and tarnished his legacy, really, because I think looking back now, I was upset at the time, and Villa fans were really angry about it. John Gregory was really angry about it, but you can understand why he went to Man U, and he goes and does what he does. You can't argue with it, but later on in his career, he ends up at Blues, and he gives it the big one, trying to say he's signed for the biggest club in Birmingham, which I'm sure he does regret, and I'm sure now he looks back and thinks it's absolutely stupid. I mean, it's blatantly wrong, as we all know as well. But I think he just tarnished his reputation a little bit with some of the things he did post-Villa, which is a shame, because he was class.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's one of the few players that's actually won a few things with Villa as well, which helps. Like you said, he won the Champions League and loads of things at Man United. Just a great player, really. Unfortunately, I didn't see him, and it just shows me a lot. Basically, you put Benteke second and York ahead of him, so I think of Benteke as this player that is the best I've ever seen, and the fact you've put York ahead of him just says everything, really.
Yeah, I think Benteke is probably the closest. Obviously, I've put him second in my list as well, so I obviously think he's the closest. But York's probably in another bracket to Benteke, and I love Benteke, but I think York was in a different league really to any other striker I've seen at Villa in my long time.
Yeah, nice one. I mean, thanks for coming on, Dan. Being on the Aston Villa YouTube scene, so nice one. And I'm going to shout out your podcast if you want to do that as well. Go for it, mate.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm not doing the Villa View anymore. The Villa View isn't happening anymore, but I'm doing a podcast for The Athletic with Greg Evans, 1874. We've had some good guests on recently, Tails, Martin Larson, Mark Bosnich. So yeah, we're doing some good stuff, and hopefully more people will listen to it off the back of this. Yeah,
it's a good listen, so highly recommend it. Go and follow Dan on everything, link in the description. So Dan, thanks for coming on, mate. Hopefully come on Villa on tour soon again if you want. Why not?
Hey, I'll come on whenever.
Nice one, mate. Right then, that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for Dan Bardell coming on, Simon Lyons as well, really helping me out with the expertise of the top 15 Villa strikers in the Premier League here. And like I said, leave your comments and thoughts in the comments below. Leave a like on the video if you have enjoyed. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. A lot of content to come out, so do subscribe for all of that. And yeah, up the Villa.